So we're back at Sydney. The sun is shining and the Shannons Nationals has again presented an awesome mix of racing cars to put on a show. For the first time in Nationals history, both of Australia's top wings and slicks formulas are on the same program. The intense fight between Tim Macro and Chris Anthony for Aussie F3 honours, to be joined by the wild slipstreaming antics of the young guns in Cam's JAYCO Australian F4. Meanwhile, the ever-evolving fight in the Australian GT Trophy Series continues this weekend as the field continues to chase hometown hero, Audi driver Greg Taylor. From Sydney's home of speed, this is round 4 of the Shannons Nationals. Hi everyone, the sun is shining, the race cars are on the track, and it's round 4 of the Shannons Australian Motor Racing Nationals, presented by Penrite Oils from Sydney Motorsport Park. Good afternoon everyone, Chad Nylon joining me in commentary for this one, and the Cam's JAYCO Australian Formula 4 Championship, Chadley, joining the show for the first ever time. This is an exciting weekend.
Out there on the grid we see 3 young stars from 3 different teams. They're definitely excited about racing here at Sydney Motorsport Park. We're used to seeing Formula 4 on the undercard with the supercars, and with the opening 2 rounds at Symonds Plains at Phillip Island, it leaves us with a point score that looks like this. To West Aussie Jordan Love on top. His BRM teammate Will Brown sitting in 2nd position, and Nick Rowe from AGI Sport down there in 3rd. They have been the 3 to watch.
Racing for the first time this year are a couple of familiar names from 2015. Teenagers Lewis Leeds and Harry Hyack have both been living the dream in England, racing in British F4 this year.
I was over there for about 4 months. Unfortunately, my stint it ended a bit early. The team unfortunately ran out of money, so we stopped racing after round 3. It's been really good to go over there and experience and I guess live by yourself, and the racing's different, and I've made a lot of friends, so I'm very grateful for the experience and the opportunity.
The opportunity came after I raced in Mexico in a one-off race, a support class for the F1 race. I won that race over there and Red Bull approached me, and somehow after that became a Red Bull junior driver, and it just opened up doors of opportunities, and I'm able to be lucky enough to race in British F4. Our last race was at Croft. I was able to win the 2nd race, and it was actually a 1-2 with another Aussie, Zane Goddard. So we've been really successful since we've been over there. We've had 2 1-2s already this year, and hopefully we just keep going.
So cars now out on the track trying to get some heat into these hand-cooked tyres. We're looking at the AGI Sport teenage star of Nick Rowe. Took pole position here this weekend, won the first race, but they're out on track right now, Richard, for their 3rd and final race of the weekend. Let's check out some highlights though of the 2nd race. It was the reverse grid race and a great start with Will Brown, who didn't go too well in that first race this weekend, so needed to make that jump early.
Yeah, it started 3rd for this one after finishing 4th in race 1. Got a brilliant start. Unfortunately, Harry Hyack fired off at turn 2. So reverse top 6 for this. And then there was this amazing scrap for the race lead, side by side, out of turn 3.
So the Cars Galore entry dropped back towards the bottom of the hill. He was overtaken by Lewis Leeds, but then Leeds struck dramas. So this is going on the front straight. We're on board with Nick Rowe. Swings to the inside, frantic action at over 200 k's down towards the flat first corner here. When you've got wings and slicks, you can do that, and it kicked off down here at turn 2 with the teammates Fallon and Leeds into each other, and unfortunately Dream Motorsport star was out of the race.
Yeah, dramas for the Dean Randall-led team. Contact between those 2 cars, and unfortunately Lewis's charge ended up parked alongside. Will Brown got the win. The fight for 2nd though was amazing, side by side.
Yeah, that was a great start to the day. Obviously yesterday we've been struggling for pace, so we had to look over the car over the night and seemed to find something. So to take a win out of today, we'll be looking forward to the next race.
He's having a cracking season so far. He was the favourite coming into season 2016 with the BRM squad, and the Toowoomba base man will be one to watch out for. But it's Nick Rowe's favourite track, you'd have to say. Won his first race here 12 months ago by a whopping 12 seconds. And this is how they'll line up for the 3rd and final race.
Yeah, and the hometown racetrack for AGI Sport, local team, so they'll be looking for a big performance. Leeds still goes from 2nd in this one, despite his dramas in race 2 earlier today. So he's a real contender for this. Harry Hyack from 3rd we want to watch. We've got to keep an eye on Will Brown, who starts a little bit further back down the field, Chad. Great field, very competitive.
Oh, That was an awkward start, wasn't it, for Lewis Leeds, creeping forward at the beginning. Great start. Everingham looks for the inside and might just get the overlap on approach down towards turn 1. Hasn't quite got enough. Hayek floats around the outside. Leeds on the defensive early.
Everingham was brilliant but got squeezed down to that yellow line and had to back out of it, and it cost him track position. There's the Cars Galore Team BRM number 99 car. Good start again from Will Brown. He's launching these things very, very well. The JRD Racing Developments car goes through. That's a big slide further back in the field, but everyone's clean through turns 1, 2 and 3.
I think that was Fallon, and I think he's got damage to the right front side of that wing as we go on board with Conroy. Down at turn 4, a little bit sideways. These cars do skate around quite a lot. You can see that ahead of him through turn 5.
Quite a soft Hankook tyre they run, but it still takes a lap or two to get tyre temperature up in these cars. They don't produce an enormous amount of downforce, so they do have to work them quite hard to get tyre temperature. So the first lap, you can see the cars starting to grip up now as they head round the back of Corporate Hill.
Oh, that was tight. Denton, the South Aussie, had a bit of a look. He was fighting with Jack Smith, the Queenslander. The two did very well at the back of Corporate Hill not to hit each other.
Josh Denton's been a big improver this year, karting champion out of Adelaide. He's been good fun to watch, working with Team BRM, the defending champions in the Camps JAYCO Australian Formula 4 Championship. But the AGI Sport car leads the way. Nick Rowe, very good opening lap.
Conroy out of the final corner, looking pretty solid as well. But I think I saw Fallon running wide through the complex of the last couple of corners. Will Brown, Toowoomba based young man, racing also in the Toyota 86 series. We're right on board with him. 6th gear. Hold it flat, hopefully, through this part of the track. Definitely on a new set of tyres in qualifying, but by the time the third and final race gets around, that becomes more and more challenging.
And these cars, don't they make the bumps noticeable through turn 1? As we said, brake lock up from Conroy up into turn 2. Gets it stopped in turn, though, and Everingham goes up the inside. So good side-by-side battle. Conroy, despite that little mistake, will hold on. But that onboard was pretty telling through turn 1. Cars are moving around a lot early in the race and really affected by the bumps. And you could see how smooth Will Brown was with his inputs on the steering wheel to keep that car flowing and keep the corner speed up. So important in these junior wings and slicks open wheelers. Great start from Rowe though, Chad. Using that experience he's got in these cars, probably one of the most experienced in the field now, with cold tyre pace and pulling away out in front.
Let's check out some replays at the start. Leeds' car, he did get that thing pulled up, but was very tardy on the shift. A lot of these times these cars can be a little bit awkward to try and shift with those paddles. You could see Everingham got a great run on him, but Leeds lucky, you'd have to say there, Richard, to hang on to second position through the opening corner. Yeah,
and Everingham unlucky not to benefit from a brilliant start. Launched really well. This is from Nick Rowe looking back. Really good shot. You can see Everingham there. He was on for second for a while, but just got squeezed down by Leeds. Probably fair racing move. Just ran out of room on the opening lap and had to cede that position.
This battle is absolutely going wild right now. Jordan Love, the cork in the bottle. Josh Conroy, part of a 3-car Dream Motorsport operation this weekend. Still loose down at the bottom at turn 4, and Everingham part of this battle as well.
Conroy struggling just a little bit. He had oversteer up at turn 2 a couple of laps ago. Struggling for rear grip in this car a little bit, and that's why he's under pressure. Everingham will have a look down the inside at 6. And Conroy pressing so hard. He's just missing the odd apex here or there. And he's just lost touch with the Team BRM car in front. This is a good scrap though. And for a defensive drive, he's doing a very nice job.
Jack Smith part of this battle. Everingham in the Sid Chrome car, caught in the middle. I've been oh so impressed with his debut year as he slides out at turn 9, and Smith will capitalise. What a shame. Just 15 years of old Everingham. He should have been second in this race had he just made that jump towards the inside of Lewis Leeds at the beginning. Wasn't to be. Hard to believe that anyone born in the year 2001 to be racing an open wheeler. But that's what's I guess the beauty about this category is they tick off another lap. The battle at the front, it's getting closer.
Yeah, they're just starting to hunt down Nick Rowe now, aren't they? So as everyone's pace is normalised and Rowe's cold tyre advantage has diminished a little bit, the two are catching him. So Harry Hayek back in Formula 4, so too Lewis Leeds. These two have spent some time in the respective British Championships this year, so they're race fit and ready to go and looking really good. And Will Brown, who won brilliantly in race 2, just in behind in that 99 car for Team BRM. We should mention Thomas Randall overseas doing a brilliant job in British Formula 3. Jordan Lloyd on the road to Indy in the States doing a superb job in USF 2000. So graduates from last year's championship, Chad, really kicking goals in international open wheel formula.
Yeah, I think Australia can be proud of their F4 alumni doing great things overseas. This is that moment once again for the Sid Chrome star. just caught the actual inside of the curb on the way in. It sent the back end around. Big four-wheel slide, and that was enough for Smith to capitalise and move on up as we go back on board with Conroy. Hasn't been a great weekend for Jordan Love, the championship leader. Was so impressive at Symmons Plains and Phillip Island, especially getting the better of his teammate Will Brown. But this weekend, I don't know what it is, but he just hasn't found the speed, the West Aussie. And Conroy's got a great run on him down the front straight. So too Smith.
Yeah, it's a 3-car tow. So there were a couple of cars that had the benefit from the BRM car in front. This is big, round the outside at turn 1. Over 200 Ks, Conroy commits and holds on. And he actually turns out to be on the right racing line for turn 2. And down the inside goes the AGI car, too deep. There's contact and they're both off the road.
It was never going to work. Conroy throws his hands up in the air. Devastated with the outcome.
He did all the right moves there, Josh Conroy. Brilliant move around the outside at turn 1. Unfortunately, an innocent party with the other car barrelling up the inside. And it was never going to stop. Well, that's a shame. And all of a sudden, Brenton Grove is elevated up the order. Brand new livery on the Grove Group car this weekend.
Oh, the championship leader caught up in it too. This is exactly not what he needed. He's been putting together an amazing season so far.
Well, he really was the meat in the sandwich there, wasn't he? There wasn't much Jordan Love could do with that. As we see safety car boards and flags, that's why Lewis Leeds is trying to get some heat into his Hankook tyre. So let's have another look at this. Down the inside, big move. So Love, the overtake on Jordan Love was probably okay, but after that, didn't look like that red AGI Sport car was going to stop. This will be interesting.
Check it out from Conroy's point of view. So Conroy was moving over to the left as well, trying to cover off. Oh, wow, that's heavy contact. Bigger than I initially thought. So Conroy was moving over, trying to cover Jordan Love, and unfortunately, we didn't realise that Smith was trying to come through as well at the same time. We get set for the restart. Riding on board with the man who will likely be taking the championship lead after that crash. Will Brown, green flag, back in the air.
Look at the snake.
This is going to get cagey here. That was good news for Everingham. He picked up a bunch of spots as a result.
Yeah, he's driven really well in this race. It's just brought the field back to Nick Rowe, so let's see what he's like on a restart. Harry Hyatt looks down the inside at turn 2, but Rowe's up for that. Covers his line, but goes too deep. How's Lewis Leeds? 2 in one corner, goes to the race lead. That was superb racing. Saw the opportunistic move. Nick Rowe was a little bit too deep, had a big slide, and Leeds got 2 places in 1.
That was a crystal ball moment. It was as if he could see the future happening ahead of him. Read it like a book, and then just waltzed on through to the lead. Great move. Simon Fallon now got his hands full with Brendan Grove. The battle at the front not complete just yet, and Everingham pouring on the pressure to Will Brown.
Hey, the stakes are high in the category, aren't they, Chad? There's so much pressure at the front of the field. In fact, all the way through it to get these race and championship victories to set yourself up for a future career in the sport. And Lewis Leeds, who's come back to the category this weekend, he's yet to win in Australian Formula 4. So he now leads a race, having come back into the category for what is at the moment a one-off drive. This is an enormous job. Nick Rowe, though, he's got plenty of time to try and attack and work his way past.
Needs to set this move up here through the last corner. Hayek and Brown along for the ride. Only a couple of weeks ago, he was winning in Yorkshire. Up in England, he's won in Mexico, supporting the Formula 4, supporting Formula 1, I should say. And now we've got a 5-car battle for the lead. Leeds looking pretty up front. Everingham tucked in behind Will Brown, and Hayek, the Sydney sider, wants a piece of the action. He draws level with the 18-year-old. Oh! Nearly contact. He actually backed off, and it got a huge amount of aero wash and unsettled the car.
Yeah, and he got curb on the inside as well, so he had a huge oversteer moment through turn 1 at 200k, but held on to it. Good catch. And they both drove away out of that corner, but that could have been very, very large. And that's just given Lewis Leeds a vital car length or 2 break in the lead of the race. You saw the effect of the slipstream, Chad, down the start-finish straight. It's so effective here at Sydney Motorsport Park with that fast entry out of turn 12. So that was wild. Have a look at this. Here's Nick Rowe.
Knowing he's under pressure, covers off the inside line. This will be on the restart. Slipped up into the marbles, and he would have thought, where on earth did Lewis Leeds come from? He was 3rd going into that corner, pops out in the lead. Is now Fallon launching an attack on Will Brown, who's desperate for points, and Fallon hangs around the outside. We saw him doing this at Phillip Island through turn 1. Now he does it at an equally menacing corner, turn 1 at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Whoa,
and
Brown.
there's contact down. at turn 2. We saw these two cars into each other here last year, but it was Lewis Leeds in the yellow and black Dream Motorsport car, and Fallon has pulled off an absolute coup there.
Terrific move. Great side-by-side racing through turn 1 and good respect from Will Brown, and now he's under pressure from Everingham in the Sid Chrome car. The JRD entered Cam's JAYCO Australian Formula 4 Championship contender, first time runner in the category, graduating out of V's in Victorian racing, goes down the inside of the 99, has a big look, and the car's galore entries just unsettled a little bit there, so he's still under threat. This fight is still on for the race lead. Nick Rowe attacking Lewis Leeds.
Probably not close enough to be able to launch an attack down the hill. Harry Hayak, we saw these boys almost arm in arm out there on the grid before the start of this race. But now it's serious business as we head off for the last lap. There's a Red Bull Junior racer. When you're part of that squad, you're usually sorted for life, but you need to pull results early on. You need to prove that you're worthy of having the Red Bull logo on your race suit. Hayek, another moment just like down in race 2 in turn 2, and that'll take him out of contention, but he'll still be on for third here.
So if they finish the way they are, a couple of milestones. Not only would it be the first ever race win for Lewis Leeds, it'd be a round win for Nick Rowe. You saw his championship position at the start of the round. He was desperate to come out of this round with a big points haul. At the moment, he's on track to do that and close that margin down to the BRM cars in front of the championship. So this bodes well going into the second half of the year, Chad. But what a drive from Lewis Leeds, all set up by that great move at turn 2.
These two have been so evenly matched in terms of pace, so he needed to make that move stick, which he did. This time, one of the last few good passing opportunities doesn't happen there. For Nick Rowe, it looks like for the first time ever, we're going to have 3 different race winners in the one weekend in Cam's JAYCO Formula 4. Rowe's got one last chance to get the lead back. He doesn't need to do it because he'll win the round anyway. It's not his style though, Richard. He wants to get back in there. You can see he's nibbling away. Is he close enough to draw level down the hill?
Leeds will defend, but I think he's got enough. Great victory, his first in Formula 4. Lewis Leeds back in the category and gets a race win. And Nick Rowe, crucially for the championship, wins the round. That is big.
And it's the first round win for AGI Sport. It comes on home turf as well. So the stranglehold of BRM for season 2016 is broken. But congratulations, Lewis Leeds. I know it's exactly what he came here to do, win a race on home turf.
Guess winning race is part of the fun that comes with it, but yeah, full credit to Sydney Motorsport. They set up the car perfectly. We knew we had a car that was more towards a long run, so those last few laps were really good for me.
I can't thank all the AGI Sport boys enough. We've done a bit of testing here and we got the car real hooked up, and we were able to prove with consistent results that we can win a round, and we got a pole race win in 2 seconds, so what else could you want?
So a big third round of the championship has shaken up the points. Will Brown goes back to the point, and his teammate Jordan Love has had a bit of a shocker here, dropping back to third. And Nick Rowe, after a bit of a shaky start to the season, absolutely in contention.
Well, from the Cam's JAYCO Australian Formula 4 Championship, we turn our attention to GT cars. The GT Trophy Enduro coming your way next. Round 4 of the Shannons Nationals is a home round of Australian GT Trophy Series leader Greg Taylor. The Audi R8 driver has won all but one of the races held so far this year and is enthusiastic to put on a good show at his home circuit.
Yeah, we've had a good start to the year. We had a good race at Sandown, which we ended up having a win there, followed up with a win at Winton. So back at Eastern Creek, which is our hometown. I live just up the road, so looking forward to this weekend for sure. For the Audi here at Eastern Creek, it's all about turn 1, the aero advantage it has through the speed you can carry through turn 1, and then into the braking into turn 2. You know, that's where we make all of our time up, to be honest. So, you know, it's just very strong because of its aero. We wanted to come along and support this category. It's a good relaxed atmosphere. There's lots of great drivers here. Yeah, it's mixed, you know, there's a lot of different varying cars, and we've got the Mark cars joining the series, which is fantastic. So it's good, you know, but everyone has a good time on and off the track, so I really enjoy it.
It's been a highlight of the Shannons Australian Motor Racing Nationals this year, a brand new category to Australian motor racing, a third level of Australian GT. It's the Australian GT Trophy Series presented by Pirelli here at Sydney Motorsport Park. The racing's been fantastic, very competitive with a wide array of competitive machinery. And Chad Nolan, we've even seen the Mark Cars Australia entries popping up at the pointy end of the field at Wakefield Park in particular, at Winton, I should say, last time out. This is a different kettle of fish though, a track that suits the Audi R8s that not only are on pole for this race but lead the championship. Greg Taylor and Rob Smith first and second, with Barton Moore third. Jake Camilleri leads the way in the Mark Cars Australia standings.
Yeah, there's 6 of them here to run this weekend. A couple of younger names appearing there as well. And all the way down to our GT Challenge class, of which we have a few cars running here this weekend. I get the feeling, Richard, this is going to be a category that booms in the next 6 months to 2 years, because we're going to see a real knock-on effect from the older cars from the Australian GT Championship flowing back down to this, much like GT3 Cup Challenge, much like the Dunlop Series. That's what this is for. It's a place for the older model cars to go, and soon we'll be seeing the SLS out here when it's eventually homologated, I guess you could say, for this style of racing. So it's an Audi and a Lamborghini on the front row. Jack Smith, though, is doing double duties in Formula 4 as well as this championship round as well for the Mark cars. So he's been very impressive and will start near the front.
And he was only 0.3 of a second behind Matt Turnbull's Lamborghini Gallardo GT3 car in qualifying, Chad. So really impressive stuff. We're underway. Great start from Stephen Grove, Porsche Carrera Cup Australia racer, making his debut in GT Trophy this weekend. Puts the Porsche Cup car to third. Brilliant rolling start. Beats the Mark car into turn one. But Greg Taylor leads them up, the GT Motorsport driver. Car prepared by the Melbourne Performance Centre, and Audi Customer Sport Racing Australia leads the Lamborghini through turn two.
Well, Jack Smith will be thinking, I could have swore I was just racing that guy's son in Cam's JAYCO Formula 4, and he just got absolutely served on the way down towards turn one. Brendan Grove, very successful weekend for him so far in Formula 4, but now it's his dad's chance to take the wheel. We're right on board with Rick Mensah. A couple of these beautifully prepared cars in the field today, Porsches.
Richard Gartner just in front in the safety stop supported car. So a whole array of GT vehicles in this class with different categories throughout to split the performance. The car that Stephen Grove is driving is their Bathurst 12-hour car, so it's not the same car he races in the Porsche Carrera Cup Australia. That car finished second in Class B. Last year won Class B at the 12-hour by about 15 laps. This year a brilliant drive with a couple of pretty handy co-drivers there as well. Grovey enjoying his weekend out, just wanted to get some laps at Sydney Motorsport Park ahead of Carrera Cup coming back here later on in the year.
Had a chance to stand up on the roof down there at turn one and watch Turnbull's Lambo come firing through that corner. It is just a special place to watch a car that's blessed with bucket loads of aero and usually some flames out of the pipes as well come firing through. This is the corner I'm talking about. You reach top gear, you have to be nice and brave on approach. And Turnbull will have his hands full here in a minute. The leader skipping away. It's all about these guys chasing him down right now.
And Grove's driving really well because Turnbull's Lamborghini's got more aero grip than the GT3 Cup spec Porsche. So full GT3 car in front, the Cup car behind, generally a couple of seconds a lap slower on the higher speed aero circuits. It's built for one motor racing, not for GT3 racing. So Grove driving this car very, very well and keeping pace with Matt Turnbull. On board one of the multiple Mark Cars Australia entries in the field, Rod Smith in front in his Audi R8. Big return to racing this year for Rod. It's a great competitor. Had a really good round at Sandown at the start of the year in his Audi R8. He's got Jake Camilleri just behind.
Jake leading the points in our Mark class. Let's check a replay of the start here. We saw Stephen Grove coming across very aggressively at the beginning of this race. And Camilleri just had to be a little bit patient.
Patience a key with the race expected to last somewhere in excess of 50 minutes. Grove was aggressive there, but he went after the green flag and he just got a really good jump. Those Porsches put their power down so well. A little bit more wheel spin in the Mark cars with the V8. The Porsches with that rear-mounted 3.6 litre flat 6 engine hanging out. And he's actually got past Matty Turnbull, so he's moved himself up into second place, and Smith spins. He's not second. He's going to be last after this.
What a shame. So the older model R8 facing the wrong way to the traffic here at the exit of turn two. An awkward spot to get yourself turned around.
One of the most successful cars in GT3 history. And they've just built so many of those things, both the original specification car and the current gen R8 that MPC runs a whole fleet of. in Australian GT with the Jamak Pem team and Greg Taylor's outfit, amongst others. Here's a look, turn 2, long constant radius corner. What does Mr. Smith do here on corner exit? Well, the rear end just breaks away. He might have had the traction control wound down a little bit, so he just got some wheel spin on corner exit, because in these cars with traction and stability control, you don't often see them spinning on the exit of a corner, Chad.
Actually quite a difficult thing to do sometimes, especially in the R8, a car with just so much downforce. There's Morgan Haber sharing this car this weekend with a fairly familiar name as well.
Former Bathurst winner Tony Longhurst back to do some racing. He's going overseas later in the year and needed to get his licence up to spec. So why not come into a GT trophy race at Sydney Motorsport Park? That was pretty wild. Turnbull's under some serious pressure here from the Mark Cars Australia Mazda, Camilleri behind, and these 3 Mark cars having a really good scrap now, with Haber in the Castrol car just in behind.
Oh, that's the moment. That's the part of the track where we saw Smith spinning earlier. This is Jake Smith through the windscreen, who's getting really impatient. He's seen too much of the big rear of the Lamborghini. He knows he's losing time to the leader. This is the fight for the second. It's 4 cars wide now. That's a brave spot to try and make a move stick. And if he does it, well, he's been blessed because Turnbull gave him a lot of room to move there.
I wonder if Turnbull might have dramas, because he's really struggling for pace. And at this circuit, that Lamborghini should be comfortably quicker than these Mark Cars Australia entries with all the aero it's got. Smith with a good run up the inside though, and you can do that move at turn 5 if you committed early. But there is a lot of runoff on the exit since they reprofiled Sydney Motorsport Park a couple of years ago. You can run wide there, which Turnbull did, but he lost 3 spots to 3 identical cars there. Not ideal. He'll have some work to do. Here's Greg Taylor. The Adina Audi R8 continues to lead the way.
Bit of a shame that he can't compete with Barton Moore anymore, if you'd pardon that pun. But they were so successful running together at Sandown. They were winning this championship, I guess you could say it, although it was within the different rules last year that they picked up the trophy class win in the Australian GT Championship. So it's a shame that partnership has been broken, but good to see him still doing very well out on his own. Picked up pole position by a good comfortable second this weekend.
Yeah, really good lap in quali. Bart's still here on the headset coaching and engineering, Greg Taylor, and they'll pair up for the GT endurance races in the Australian GT Championship a little bit later on this year. So now Grover's been caught. This will be the fight for second place with Taylor out in front and Smith closing in behind them. Jake Camilleri, he's done a superb job this year. His first full-time season racing the Mark Cars Australia entry in Australian GT, but he's raced these cars for a couple of years in the Creventic Endurance Series overseas at places like Zandvoort and Spa and cool racetracks like Catalunya. So really good driver, multiple Australian production car champion. Great to see him in the field, adding to the variety, and of course a race winner at Winton last time out when Greg Taylor struck some dramas. Speaking of, we ride on board with the Brisbane-based Mazda dealer.
Just watch how he approaches turn 1 here, 6th gear. Just about getting the limiter. He just rolls off it, doesn't downshift on approach. You want the balance of the car to be really evenly spread through a corner like that. If it goes shifting violently left to right or front to back, as we see a change for second now with Grove just running it a little bit deep down there at turn 2. The older model Porsches not blessed being a cup car with things like ABS or traction control, so they're a little bit more difficult to drive. Smith making good headway here, moving on up now to second. Let's just watch this once more. Just missed his braking marker by only a couple of metres. You can run it pretty wide and deep into turn 2, but if you just get it that little bit wrong, you can give up a spot like that. And into the pits comes the 42 Porsche.
And the pit stop rules in the Pirelli Australian GT Trophy class work in a similar way. Wow, a little bit deep into the bay there. So the pit stops work, just worried about the crew chief there, work in a similar way. They're on a time basis. You can do some work or just sit and watch the car breathe. We're going to take a break from Sydney Motorsport Park. We'll come back with the other half of this race on the other side of this. Welcome back to Sydney Motorsport Park, the Australian GT Trophy presented by Pirelli, part of the Shannons Australia Motor Racing Nationals coverage this weekend. Greg Taylor in the lane, race leader for his compulsory timed pit stop. Richard Craill, Chad Nail on with you for this race, and this will be interesting because as the strategy plays itself out, there will be a new race leader. The Mark Cars Australia car of Jack Smith will actually get to the lead of the race during this sequence. It's
going to bode him well being able to drive big V8 cars with big brakes, not just open wheel stuff. Talking about Jack Smith, because that's obviously the lay of the land here in Australian professional racing. Greg Taylor exits, and it's very close actually with those marked cars right at the front of the field.
So that is for the race lead. So a shorter pit stop time for Smith. His stationary time was shorter than Greg Taylor, and he's got out a bit of heat coming from the front of the safety stop Porsche, but they're okay, they're good to go. Drivers still waiting, looking pensive and nervous. So sitting still for a minute or so in pit lane will take the edge off the Pirelli tyres on Greg Taylor's car. So you'll just have to be smooth and consistent this lap. Get his tyres back up to temperature and pressure, and then he'll be good to go and try and attack for the race lead as Turnbull enters pit lane.
No baloney, Tony standing there ready to go with that very familiar looking Castrol race suit. Camilleri's in, your points leader in this class, looking to extend that here this weekend. There's the battle at the front right now. Taylor just needs to focus. He's got a car that's clearly capable of winning here this weekend, needs a bit of patience.
Spoke to Ryan McLeod recently about the development of these Mark Cars Australia cars, and they're designed to do a full year of racing, which is 12 and 24-hour races without being touched. They're going to get passed by a full GT3 car here as Taylor goes down the inside.
Never mind the patience, Richards.
Wow.
That's amazing. He just scoots to the inside.
That's aero for you, and the commitment to brake so deep into turn one and get the car into the corner. Really nice. But that whole Mark Cars Australia program, remember, these cars were designed and built with 90% of their components coming from a 100k radius around the Gold Coast. So they are a proper Aussie product in GT endurance racing, and the 95 sitting in pit lane with some dramas.
Well, there aren't too many places on the track where you'd be genuinely nervous about a move like this. Taylor had to be confident. He needed to trust that he was seen. Oh, we've got Smith around again here. And this is through the last complex of corners.
Your point about Greg Taylor making that move at turn one is absolutely bang on, as Scott Hockey just negotiates an Audi pointing in the wrong direction. The final corner here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Isn't that a nice noise? The 4.5 litre Ferrari V8 in Australian GT Trophy. That's what these cars are all about, commitment and confidence with the aero, and that's where these drivers find the most amount of time as Taylor starts the final lap of the race is in the aero corners, the high speed stuff. You can see Greg committing through turn one, holding on.
This is Adrian Dietz that he's looking at the inside and it hits him. Dietz didn't know he was there. Taylor shakes his head. Now hazardous damage to the car. Very fragile front end. Pirelli tyres don't like to be smashed in the sidewall like that. No tyre does. And I reckon he's hit him right about where the left-hand side exhaust is on that car too.
So he needs to be careful with the steering. It might be out of alignment, front right corner on the R8, as well as a tyre perhaps. No visible signs of damage. I think Greg might have got away with this. And if he did, this will be one of the luckier victories he's had in his career. So look at this. Dietz just turned in on him. The Audi was a long way down. That goes back to what we were talking about the commitment. Taylor felt he could commit down the inside with the aero and braking advantage the GT3 car's got. And he's got every right just to cruise this final lap home. And he's doing just that. It's been a good drive, but a last-minute scare for Greg Taylor.
Thankfully for Greg, he's got a giant lead right now. He can just cruise home. I cannot believe that he got away with that one. He's hit the Project Car-sponsored Mark sports car.
It's like he had indestructible mode
I know,
on, just barreled up the inside.
Thinking the exact same thing.
It's been a good drive. Championship leader. Big supporter of Australian GT racing, running in all three tiers of GT in Australia this year, and despite a last lap scare, Greg Taylor will win race one of the GT Trophy here at Sydney Motorsport Park by the length of the front straight here at Eastern Creek. Great victory. Jack Smith will be second. Really good performance and led the race for a while in the Mazda V8 Mark Cars Australia entry. Stevie Gove in the Porsche home in third. Camilleri was fourth, and a great story, Keith Kasuki back on the racetrack teaming up with Ryan McLeod. They rounded out the top five with Turnbull back in sixth in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, no, I was pretty happy with that. You know, it's always good to get a good start. So I thought I got up to the line well, and then just kind of head down and managed to keep it out in front, which is good.
So after an exciting race one, here's what happened in race two. Greg Taylor jumped to an early lead, but it turns out, Chad, he only just got home in race one.
Yeah, that contact passing Adrian Dietz cut the right front tyre wall down, so he's very lucky that it maintained pressure throughout the last sort of 3 kilometres of the race. Bit of a moment here for our championship leader in the Mark Cars, Jake Camilleri, spearing off at turn 1, but gathered this back up quite nicely.
So Smith was performing nicely, but Greg Taylor's woes didn't end there. He had some dramas coming out of the turn 8 hairpin and got overtaken by Jack Smith, not for the first time this weekend. And as you can hear, gearbox dramas, lost second gear on his Audi R8.
So he's having a flick down between first and third just to get some momentum. This was the fight for the lead as Taylor was trying to find his way back to the front after relinquishing that lead courtesy of the gearbox issues. Morgan Haber with a little bit of toe in there on the left front, but amazingly he managed to overcome those issues, Greg Taylor, and win race 2 and the round.
Oh, look, I think both races went according to plan here. You know, like we set the car up well. We've done plenty of miles here, so we kind of knew what to start with. But I enjoyed the second race, to be honest. We had a few issues with the car, and that just kind of made it a good challenge, which I liked.
So he extends his lead at the top of the Australian GT Trophy standings. Rob Smith in second with a lead over Matt Turnbull in the Lamborghini. Camilleri and Smith, you feel like that could be a battle for the rest of the year in the Mark Cars Australia points, with Morgan Haber in third and Ockett Forey closed in a little bit there by Scott Hookey in the Ferrari 458. We'll take a break from Sydney Motorsport Park. Some more open wheelers coming your way next. The Australian Formula 3 Premier Series. After an intensely fought battle for outright honours in Formula 3 last year, Ricky Capo narrowly fended off John Collins to take out the top prize. Since then, the defending Australian Formula 3 champ has been kept busy with stints in Australian GT and the Kerridge Sports Sedan Series. But the 19-year-old is back in Australia's fastest racing cars this weekend and is ready to show the current stars a thing or two.
Well, we've been competing in the Australian GT Championship. So we've been racing Formula 3 the previous 2 seasons and we won the championship last year. So this season our main focus has been on GT. We're competing in a BMW Z4 and we've done a sports sedan race, and this is our first Formula 3 race of the season. So we're obviously not doing the entire season as we've come in mid-season. So it's just basically an event for me to kind of see how well I can adapt from different cars to different cars and get as much experience as I can for next year when we hope to go to Europe. I think I'm doing better than I thought. I thought yesterday it would take a little bit more time to adapt, but I think after a few laps it's kind of like riding a bike now. So that's really good for me in terms of confidence, knowing that I can kind of jump into one car and then the other and be somewhat competitive. So we qualified third today and I'm pretty happy with that and looking forward to making more progress throughout the race.
Great to have Ricky Capo back on the grid, taking a break from his duties in Australian GT, driving a BMW to jump back into some wings and slicks racing. And there he is, the number 92 Modena Engineering Dallara. Great to have the young Victorian back on the grid in the Australian Formula 3 Premier Series. It adds some spice to a field which is looking for a championship battle. A big weekend needed from Chris Anthony to put the pressure on this bloke, the double champ Tim Macro, who's been so very good in this Alpine Motorsport F307 Dallara. He leads the standings over Anthony with Roland Legg in third and Trent Shervington in fourth in the McGale. The national class points have Cameron Shields on top in that McDonald's Gilmore Racing entry with Nathan Kumar in second place. Kumo Cup with Ross McAlpine and Shane Wilson this weekend as well. Chad Nailon, open wheelers, wings and slicks at Sydney Motorsport Park on a crisp Sunday morning.
Oh, what a beautiful thing it is, Kralsey. We love seeing these cars out on the way.
Roland.
On the warm-up lap.
He spun the Artec Motorsport Dallara, trying to get heat into the rear tyres.
Oh, you're just saying how cold it is, and that's what can happen.
Oh, and he stalled it too, so gets the car fired up. This is going to be critical for his race. Finished third in race 1. Desperately needed a good run in this one. And there's a look, so accelerate, brake, had a little bit of lock on the car and just smoked the rear tyres and spun the car around.
No, he was due for a front row start. You'll hear it cut the motor out just when he tries to get it going. He drove from last to third as well in that first race after gearbox issues in qualifying, so that is a real heartbreaker. It'll leave a vacant spot alongside Ricky Capo. Reverse top 4 for this one, so it puts the fast guys...
Oh, no.
There's more going on here. Shields.
Yeah, young Queenslander, another one of the Toowoomba Brigade. running down into pit lane, the teenager from McDonald's Gilmore Racing. So a bit of a free kick for Tim Macro, the championship leader on the second row of the grid. It's a good start for Chris Anthony as well. And the second of the Macca's cars goes down the inside of Ricky Capo. Couldn't quite squeeze through though by the looks of it. And Capo on the outside on Cold Kumo tyres holds on. Good start. The man that fought John Collins for the championship last year. Look at Anthony sailing around the outside at turn 2. Almost locking wheels, and with great commitment he holds on and grabs the lead.
What a battle for the lead. And Capo, unfortunately for his sake here, has relinquished it. He needed to hang on there because Anthony has been pressing with speed so far this weekend. Tim Macro's been the man to beat after converting that pole position, a lap record pole position I might add, to a race 1 win. And this is the man we're talking about. To the inside at 6. That is confidence on cold tyres. And the Kumos hang on to push him through to second, so Capo drops back to third. And it's a very important move, that one, for Macro, because he can see there's already a good 2.5 lead that he needs to bring back.
Knocked up his 100th race start yesterday, Tim Macro, so he knows how to drive these cars on cold tyres, and just so good. Here's Roland League, spun on the formation lap, relegated to the back of the field because of it. He's made up some good ground, and he's now up behind Trent Shervington in that Quicksilver Magar run by Team BRM, the multiple champions in this category and defending champions in F4. There's Legg from Mackay in North Queensland. He's got some work to do, but that's the margin first to second. This is a crucial race, Chad, for Chris Anthony. Desperately needs to break this winning streak from Tim Macro as Legg pulls out of the toe and runs down the inside of Shervo at turn 1 and grabs the book in a pretty straightforward move.
Shervington hanging tough around the outside and then gets the run back down to turn 2 and loses the rear. Just got pinched a little bit, sends him the wrong way round. And his Team BRM entry facing the wrong way at turn 2. What a shame.
So yellow flags for the rest of the field to know that there's a spun car parked on the apron. Here's the start. Really good launch from Anthony. The first phase of the start was great. He just wasn't quite alongside Capo enough into turn 1, and the Johnny King Delara held on around the outside. And Anthony, in fact, used a little bit of curb through there to take evasive action. But solid start, though. And then just sailed around the outside. This was awesome.
You've got to say, Capo did absolutely everything he could to hold on to that lead, and they were actually banging wheels. Proper open wheel racing through turn 2. He just wrestles that away. Watch the right front here on Capo's car. This is as close as you can get. Oh, just banging rims in the mid part of that corner. Awesome to watch.
Lucky not to lock wheels on corner exit there. Things get messy when that happens. So Macro now closing in on the Macca's car that leads the race. Here he goes. He's got a good toe. The 07 car a bit slippery on a straight line and sends it down the outside. You know, you can go side by side through there. He tried to switch back as well, but Chris Anthony just slowed up mid-corner, defended his line. Really good bit of defensive driving by the man who's second in the championship this year.
He knows that he needs to fend off every attack that the two-time champ throws at him. Knows that he may even be that little bit slower this weekend, considering Macro laid down the first ever sub 122 here in qualifying with a blistering lap.
We thought this circuit would suit the slightly later model car that Anthony's running more than Macro's 07 Delara, but that thing is absolutely hooked up and he's driving as well as he ever has in his lengthy career in Australian Formula 3. So he continues to apply the pressure. It's important Macro be quicker in a straight line, so he needs to get a good run out of this final complex and try and get himself up underneath the rear wing of the McDonald's Gilmore Racing Delara. But this has been a very, very solid drive from Chris Anthony. Back in the category this year, did half a season in Europe in season 2015. Came back this year to get some more experience at Wings and Slicks cars before having another crack at it. Good, tense fight between the two of them. Macro so good, over one lap in qualifying, and his cold tyre pace exemplary. But when they're up and racing, and if Anthony can get in front of him, he's generally very good. And it's nice to see him making good starts as well, Chad, because at Winton he had the fastest car, set the outright lap record there as well. Unfortunately, his starts cost him, and at a place where it's almost impossible to pass in one of these cars, it was very, very difficult for him to do anything about Macro there.
You give Tim Macro any sort of advantage at the start like that, he will make you pay. But now it's the other way around in this reverse grid race. Anthony making the most of the start this time. Macro hunting him down. You mentioned earlier, 100 starts now in this category. And amazing to think that he's won 40 of those. It's a ridiculous conversion rate. So this is the battle a bit further back now for third.
Yeah, solid drive from Roland Legg after fending off, and unfortunately Trent Shervington had that spin while they were battling for position. He's now caught up to Ricky Capo. So this is the fight for third place. Capo hasn't driven this car since the finale in Goulburn last year. So came into it cold and just sort of worked his way into it in Friday practice in qualifying. Wasn't too worried about his one lap pace, was more about making sure the car was going to be good over a race distance. And Roland off the road, drops it off over the exit curb, runs it wide and belts the wall.
Oh, and he puts his hands to his face. He knows that he was on an absolute charge and on for third position again. Look at the steam pouring off these tyres. It picked up a lot of moisture and there was no chance that he was going to arrest his car once he got onto the grass. A lot of winter dew still out there this morning. So what's the moment? Just took the exit curb, Krause.
Yeah, and the car bottoms out, Chad. So from there he was a passenger.
Oh.
Reasonable impact with the wall, but the rear wing looked like it took a lot of that impact, and that's a replaceable part. So that might not be a bad thing. They might be able to get that car fixed. That doesn't look great for Nathan Kumar, though. Big smoke, and that's engine smoke coming from the Spice Opel engine in his Dallara. And it sounds unhealthy, and he is out of the way. There's no Super Mario for him in this race.
It's an awkward spot, actually, where he's had to pull that car up. You don't really get much of a choice sometimes when it's an engine failure as to where you stop. So we'll see if race control deemed that a dangerous position. Meanwhile, this battle at the front continues. There'll be local yellows at least in a couple places on the track, so that'll limit the overtaking opportunities that Macro gets. That's assuming he gets close enough to make a move at the moment, because Anthony is driving the wheels off the Macca's Gilmore car, and there'll be just one more lap to go.
Tim's a smart guy. He's not going to risk throwing this car up the inside and risk damage both to his car and to Chris Anthony's car just for the sake of winning another race when the points swing. Given he won race one and got the fastest lap and got pole position, he's only going to be 1 point back to Chris Anthony. So he doesn't actually lose a lot of margin by finishing second in this race. But from a moral point of view and perhaps a hopes point of view, enthusiasm for Anthony, a win is going to be great. It's been a difficult championship campaign so far. Local wave yellows for Kumar's stranded Artec Dallara on the exit of turn 6. Anthony still pressing on, just grabbing the inside front brake, but this has been a very good drive and on course for his second win of the season and what will be a massive confidence boost for him.
Every time you can pull one over a guy like Tim Macro, it will serve you well. But can he back it up in what will be a difficult third race as well? Last few corners now for Anthony. He's driven perfectly in this race. Had to wrestle the lead in spectacular fashion away from Ricky Capo on the opening lap. And then never set a foot wrong since then. Bit of a Sebastian Bourdais look about this car. I absolutely love it on track, and he will cruise home to victory in race 2 for Gilmore Racing. He punches the air, and well mighty, because he absolutely earned that one.
Big morale boost for the young man from Cooma in regional New South Wales, and McDonald's Gilmore Racing. Macro, the championship leader, second. Ricky Capo third, and Trent Shervington, despite his dramas early, rebounded to P4.
Yeah, it's been a long time since Sandown, chasing Tim all the time, and it's finally good to finally get a victory. We pushed really, really hard. Tim was very, very quick at the start of the race, so I had to manage my tyres and manage the gap, and he was right all over me. So a lot of defensive work, and the hard work and the fitness paid off with fitness to podium, getting me ready. So I lasted the race and eventually got the win. So.
Confidence-boosting victory for Chris Anthony. Race 3 highlights now, and it would all come down to the start. Anthony's start was good. Tim Macro slightly better. And Chad, he was just able to lead into turn 1.
Yeah, and we saw in race 2 that it was a pretty high-flying move at turn 2 that got the lead back for Anthony. A guy like Tim Macro is never going to fall for a similar move, though, so that pretty much set up how the 15-lap feature would finish at the front of the field, but the story a bit further back was an interesting one.
So Trent Shervington and Roland Legg dicing. They diced in race number 2. Shervington spun from the inside. This time, unfortunately, the Quicksilver Miguel spun from the outside of the road, and he would drop plenty of positions. Ricky Capo closed in on Cameron Shields, who was doing a very nice job after a drive shaft failure in race 2. He pulled out of the way, and Capo was going nicely until this happened. Engine dramas slowed his charge. and he pulled out of the race. A drama for the 92 driver.
Yeah, not the way that he wanted to finish off his return to Formula 3 racing. No one was going to catch Tim Macro in a league of his own this weekend, finishing strong out front. What a drive from Shields to close in on his teammate, but congratulations to Tim Macro.
Yeah, it's all about getting it off the line. It's a high aero track, and when you get behind another car, it's very, very difficult to pass. So, just got in the lead and, went away with it.
Experiencing paying off for Tim Macro as he extends his lead in the championship now. It's pretty much over the halfway mark from Chris Anthony with 3 rounds remaining in the Australian Formula 3 Championship. Ricky Capo, great to have him back here this weekend. Cameron Shields extending his lead also in the national class. Nathan Kumar really didn't need that DNF in the second race. And all in all, pretty exciting racing in Formula 3.
Thanks, Chad. That wraps up our coverage from Sydney Motorsport Park. Round 5 of the Nationals coming your way from Queensland Raceway this August. Head to thenationals.com.au for more information, and we'll see you in the Sunshine State.